This film, based on a true story, is set in Hong Kong in 1978. We are shown two men who have just finished playing mahjong. One of the men won the game, but apparently the losing opponent was also asked for $20,000, as per their previous agreement. However, this man in black named Kung continued to refuse, thus making the gambling winner angry and then hitting him from behind using a frying pan, then hitting his head against the wall brutally. Full of mad rage, the man poured gasoline all over Kung's body, who was already unconscious on the floor, and even worse, he burned Kung alive. Long story short, now we are in 1986, set in the city of Macau, where two boys are shown playing on the beach with their mother. Then the two boys accidentally found a large sack that smelled rotten. When they opened it, it turned out that the sack contained a rotting human body, and we do not know who did it. The news finally started to spread. Journalists started arriving to cover the mutilated corpse, as well as the police who were investigating the origin of the body in the sack. The police team consists of Robert, a policewoman named Bo, then King Kong, and finally Bull. Because she is still a junior police officer, Bo is completely unprepared for what she sees. How horrified Bo is when she finds a human body in a sack. Then their inspector named Lee arrives at the crime scene. Then the scene moves to a restaurant led by a bald man named Wong. You could say the restaurant he owns is a legendary restaurant, seen from the loyal visitors. The restaurant, which has the nickname 8 Immortals, has a favorite dim sum menu that is liked by many people. Because the restaurant was always busy, Wong hired a woman named Pearl, who doubled as cashier and waitress. Not long after, a middle-aged man came who wanted to apply for a job at the restaurant, based on the vacancy advertisement they posted in front of the restaurant. Without further ado, the man immediately showed his cutting skills in front of Wong, and finally he was accepted to work at the restaurant. After being preoccupied with serving customers at his restaurant, Wong went to the attorney's office from the restaurant. Wong confessed that he had bought the restaurant for $180,000 to someone named Cheng Lam. However, Wong's request was rejected because the lawyer needed the signature of the previous owner, namely Cheng Lam. The restaurant was also closed at night, so Wong used this opportunity to play mahjong with his friends. This was witnessed by the new employee who actually lived in this restaurant, but in the middle of the game, the employee saw Wong playing cheating, which in the end Wong won the game with a lot of bets. At first Wong remained relaxed about his win, but that all changed when the employee told him his boss had been cheating. Meanwhile, at the Forensic Laboratory Center, Bo and Bull deliberately work overtime to investigate the discovery of a previously mutilated body, in order to uncover who the unfortunate body was. After matching the fingerprints, Bull finally found out who owned the fingerprints on the body. They also reported it to Inspector Lee, then said that the owner of the fingerprints was an old woman named Chan Lai Chun. It was from here that Bo discovered the fact that the poor woman's body was the adoptive mother of the owner of the 8 Immortals restaurant, which had been around for a long time. The scene switches to Pearl getting a letter for someone named Cheng Lam. There's no wind, no rain. Suddenly the new waiter confides in Pearl about his boss playing mahjong fraudulently. Unfortunately, Wong heard his chatter, and he continued to stare at the two employees intently. It turned out that Wong had been harboring anger towards the new waiter. He had immediately thrust a sharp object into one of his eyes. Not just got there, Wong, who was already insane and out of his mind, immediately chopped the poor waiter's body to death. A gripping scene ensued, where Wong cut open the maid's stomach and took out its contents, then she boiled it. What an extremely cruel sight. There was no visible face of regret from Wong. He actually seemed to really enjoy it. After all the body parts were cut into several pieces, he put them into a grinding machine, so that human ground meat was ready to be served later. How crazy! As for the remains of the bones, Wong didn't need them at all, so he collected the waiter's bones and threw them in the trash. All night Wong stayed up late preparing dim sum with the aim of eliminating traces of his crime. What was worse was that the dim sum was filled with human flesh that he had just finished processing earlier. Wong continues to focus on preparing the special dim sum made from his employee's flesh, and this will be the most delicious dim sum he has ever made. Seriously. The human meat dim sum was actually selling well, and there were lots of orders. Even one of the customers from the restaurant said that this time the dim sum was the best he had ever eaten. Not long after, Bull, King Kong, and also Bo arrived at the restaurant. They interrogated Wong about him having been an employee before owning the restaurant. The funny thing is, these police officers interrogated Wong while eating the special dim sum. Pearl, who was a little nervous, then told both that she often received letters addressed to Chung Lam. But apparently Wong heard all of Pearl's words. Soon the police finished interrogating them and returned to headquarters, not forgetting that Wong gave them special dim sum presents stamped on human flesh. Evening came, Wong closed his restaurant. On this occasion, Pearl wanted to tell her boss that she wanted to quit her job. But Wong, who is addicted to killing, doesn't let Pearl just go home. Because Wong felt annoyed with Pearl, who had complained all kinds of things to the police earlier, Wong also tortured Pearl by sticking her vagina with a bundle of chopsticks. Can't you imagine how it hurt? From this moment, we can already imagine that Pearl's fate will be the same as the previous waiter, who had become minced meat. Yes. Pearl will definitely be killed, then the meat is taken to be sold in the damn restaurant. The day changed. Wong, who was innocent, posted vacancies for cashiers and also waiters at his restaurant. It's just that he never expected that today his restaurant will be visited by many police. Without further ado, Inspector Lee immediately checked every corner of the entire restaurant room. Inspector Lee also finds a family photo. When he asks Wong about the photo, he says that it is a photo of the previous owner of the restaurant, who has now emigrated to Canada. Luckily, Inspector Lee has not arrested Wong, because there is not enough evidence to make an arrest. Since then, Wong felt uneasy. He even kicked out all the customers who were dining at his restaurant. It could be said that Wong closed his restaurant too soon, so even the police who saw him felt suspicious about his strange behavior. Inspector Lee was also informed by the related lawyer that the restaurant was still under Chang Nam's name as the rightful owner. Then the scene was fixed on Wong, who kept thinking, and he was planning something at that time. Where is the identity of Chang Nam and his family, as well as all of their photos, immediately taken using a red plastic bag? Obviously, what Wong was doing made the police outside feel suspicious. At that moment, Inspector Lee ordered Bo and Bull to follow where the garbage truck was going. They also began to realize that Wong was ready to leave the restaurant. Sure enough, Wong had apparently gone by taxi and had nowhere to go. Meanwhile, Bo and Bull had arrived at the truck's final disposal site, and they had to rummage through the very foul-smelling garbage. Luckily, Bo finds the red plastic bag that Wong threw away, which will be used as evidence. Long story short, the taxi that Wong was riding in had arrived somewhere. It turned out that Wong intended to leave Macau. Wong tried to run away and remove traces from the police. At first everything went smoothly. No one realized that Wong was a fugitive. Finally, Wong was surrounded by the police, and he tried to avoid them as much as possible. But alas, the number of policemen was so large that Wong was surrounded and unable to do anything else but surrender to them. It didn't take long for Wong to be apprehended and taken to the police headquarters. Even the journalists had gathered there to cover this incident. Wong was found to have lied, because according to an investigation by the police, it turned out that Chung Lam's family was still in Macau. Meanwhile, according to Wong, they had emigrated to Canada. Meanwhile, King Kong finds out that Cheng Lam has a brother named Chung Poon who is currently in prison. From this, it seems that Wong's fate will deteriorate, and without anyone knowing. Moreover, Chung Poon heard from the police that Cheng Lam's whereabouts were no longer known, due to the actions of Wong. Therefore, all the prisoners in the cell beat Wong, at the order of Chung Poon. However, he avoided it. Wong was still not allowed to calm down a bit or without being beaten up by the prisoners. What a very painful torture. From the time he was punched in the face against a toilet full of feces, to being urinated on by Chung Poon, Wong was still stubborn and refused to admit what he had done. To the extent that Wong suffered internal injuries and he also urinated blood. Even when it was time to sleep, the other prisoners kept beating Wong mercilessly. Even Wong was beaten on the head with an iron dustpan until it bled. Feeling hopeless with the torture after torture he received, Wong decided to commit suicide by rubbing his wrists with an iron dustpan. More horrified, Wong bit his vein to death in front of a prisoner. But over time, it was revealed who Wong really was. So in 1978 in Hong Kong, Wong was imprisoned under the name Chan Shiliang, which was his real name. for burning a man named Kung alive in an apartment. But after being released, Wong fled to Macau and changed his identity to the name Wong. As a result, Inspector Lee continued to threaten Wong, who had been very annoyed with him from the start. Inspector Lee said that if Wong was proven guilty of premeditated murder, Wong would be sentenced to a minimum of 24 years in prison, while the maximum demand is death penalty. But the ignorant Wong still doesn't want to confess to all the crimes he has committed. This makes Inspector Lee even more irritated, and he will issue a new move on Wong, so he can confess everything honestly. Wong will be injected with a hallucinogenic drug that will keep him awake for 3 days straight. It doesn't stop there. Wong is also injected with a liquid which causes his skin to swell so he can't lie down. What an extreme torture. This is natural, considering what Wong had done before. It was evident that all these efforts had paid off. Wong began confessing to all the crimes he had committed. A few months ago, Wong did work at the restaurant as a cook for the Chang Lam family. The family also seemed happy and there were no problems at all. But one day, Chang Lam and his friends just lost playing mahjong. Apparently, the game was won by Wong. He also asked Chang Lam to pay $180,000. But Chang Lam didn't want to pay because Wong had played unfairly. As a result, there was a fight between them which got heated up. Wong couldn't hold back his emotions either. After beating Chang Lam until he bled, Wong also detained one of their children that night. What was even more heinous was that Wong had the heart to kill Lam's son in front of him and his other children. Wong, who had lost his mind, also killed Chang Lam, his wife, and their other children. These people are really depraved. Eventually, the place became a human slaughterhouse. Unfortunately, Chang Lam's adoptive mother witnessed Wong's sadism. Of course, he didn't want any witnesses, so Wong killed the poor old woman. Because he was exhausted, Wong decided to process their meat until there was nothing left, but the difference was that night, Wong decided to throw the rest of their bodies into the sea, without anyone knowing. And who would have thought that the result of his carelessness was a clue to his own actions, when the mutilated body of Chang Lam's adoptive mother was found? On the basis of his confession, Wong was officially detained and considered a very dangerous killer, as well as extreme levels of detainees. That night, Wong decided to attempt suicide once again, which this time was successful, and he died. And the film ends. That's all the recap. Don't forget to share happiness with the whole world and creatures on this earth. Thanks for watching, and we do really appreciate it if you subscribe to this channel. We're signing off, and see you soon.